On the world of business now, Volkswagen has a long history with military production dating back to World War II, when it manufactured the iconic Type 181.
Wegen des Ukraine-Kriegs und nun wegen der Forderungen von US-Präsident Trump, dass Europa mehr für seine eigene Sicherheit tun müsse. Stellt sich also die Frage, können die Autobauer umrüsten, um aufzurüsten?
European security policy is undergoing a historic transformation as the world becomes an increasingly dangerous place. Rising geopolitical tensions and military conflicts are reinforcing more than ever the idea that Europe needs to strengthen its own defence capacity. This transformation is profoundly affecting not only governments, but also the defence industry and even civilian companies. The growing demand for armaments has led to a boom in military production, and even automotive giants are turning to this sector. One of the most striking examples of this change, especially in Germany, is Volkswagen. Founded in 1937 to produce cars for the general public, the legendary brand is now preparing to produce military equipment for the German army. So what does this change mean? Is Volkswagen's move into the defence industry, once the people's car, directly linked to the increasingly fragile military alliance between the United States and Europe under Donald Trump? Does Europe now have to take its own security into its own hands? For answers to our questions and more, here is our video. But first, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and give us a like to stay up to date with our content. The German car maker is adapting to geopolitical shifts with an eye on military equipment production. The renowned German car maker, Volkswagen, has announced its willingness to explore producing equipment for the German military as part of Europe's rearmament efforts. Volkswagen Chief Executive Officer Oliver Blume said that the company is ready to consider concepts for the production of military equipment. However, he emphasized that there are no offers from potential partners at this stage. Blume noted that the group has extensive expertise in the automotive industry and can provide consulting and technological support if needed, without immediately committing to production facilities. Blume's comments reflect Germany's move to strengthen its military capabilities, driven in particular by fears over the possibility of reduced United States military support under the administration of former President Donald Trump. The declining interest of the United States in NATO has the European wing worried about its military defence. US President Donald Trump has stated that they spend the most on the international military alliance, which only brings harm. He also said that NATO member states should increase their military spending to 5%. These statements prompted European Union member states to take steps to further distance themselves from the US military industry. Germany, France and Portugal have taken the boldest steps. France is calling on European countries to prioritise investment in the continent's arms manufacturers and to move away from US weapons due to unprecedented spending on defence. French EU Minister Benjamin Haddad said that prioritising the European defence industry is the only way for Europe to be autonomous and control its own security. Portugal, for its part, is taking a more daring stance, backing down on replacing its US-made F-16 fighter jets with more modern F-35s. This is one of the first examples of US President Donald Trump undermining a potentially lucrative arms deal. The Portuguese Defence Ministry said the F-35s were not excluded from the selection process for F-16 replacements. With Trump once again threatening to annex Greenland and threaten Canada, there are fears that the US government may decide to block access to software updates and spare parts needed to make the F-35 fully operational. Outside the EU, Canada is one of the countries that opposes the US on military industry. Canada is planning to review the contract with the US for F-35 fighter jets. Instead of the US F-35s, the Canadian government is considering Sweden's Gripens or France's Rafale fighter jets, or the Eurofighter Typhoon jets, the product of a European consortium consisting of the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy and Spain. Turning back to the EU after Canada, another bold actor willing to give up the US military industry is, as we mentioned, Germany. Germany is currently making a serious effort to nationalise and diversify its military-industrial production areas. Growing demand for defence equipment has had a significant impact on financial markets. with strong stock growth among German defence companies that have increased their production capacity. Some automotive factories, originally designed for internal combustion engine production or light vehicle components, are now being converted to meet military sector needs. The industrial flexibility of these plants can enable rapid adaptation to new defence market requirements, especially for armoured vehicles or aerospace components. The shift to military production is not an isolated case, but part of a larger trend in which various manufacturers such as Rheinmetall and KNDS Group are preparing to adjust their auto parts factories to facilitate weapons production. The historical significance cannot be ignored. Volkswagen was originally founded during the Nazi regime, which adds layers of complexity to this new venture. Beyond producing armed vehicles for the Nazis in World War II, the company developed and produced the Volkswagen Type 181 for the West German Army, and later for civilian customers in the United Kingdom and the United States. Here, the model was better known as the Thing. Volkswagen is also involved in the defence industry through a joint venture between the MAN truck and bus brand and Rheinmetall AG, which produces military vehicles. Now, German car factories are over capacity due to a sharp decline in vehicle exports, which have now halved from pre-pandemic levels. The decline is partly due to increased competition from Chinese manufacturers, now the world's leading car exporters, and the European market shift towards electrification, which is reshaping traditional automotive production. In Germany, annual vehicle exports have fallen from 2.4 million to around 1.2 million units, forcing manufacturers to rethink their economic models. Although Volkswagen reported a profit of €12.4 billion for 2024, this was about 31% less than the previous year, highlighting intense competition, especially from companies like Tesla. Tesla's sales in particular have recently fallen by 70% in Australia alone, illustrating the challenges facing electric vehicle makers in general. Increased demand from the prospect of European rearmament has led to significant increases in the stock prices of German defence companies as they prepare to increase production capacity. Such financial dynamics are crucial as they show shifts not only in the automotive industry, but also in the wider economic ecosystem, which is influenced by international relations. Volkswagen's readiness to adapt its factories to military equipment follows logical economic calculations in an effort to maintain profitability amid turbulent market conditions. The strategic decisions taken at Volkswagen are in line with Germany's national interests, which are slowly re-emerging after decades of post-war dependence on United States military support. Industry experts suggest that this shift could present challenges but also significant employment opportunities. Adapting automotive factories to meet military demands will require skilled, talented workers skilled in new technologies. As it grapples with these transitions, Volkswagen undoubtedly stands at the crossroads of innovation and historical resonance. Volkswagen's upcoming decisions will be closely watched, encompassing both its approach to military contracts and its strategies aimed at restoring profitability. The company's unique history can perhaps provide insights in line with contemporary challenges and expectations regarding its role on the global stage and as a spokesperson for European defence production. Volkswagen's developments resonate on many levels, becoming a symbol of a changing geopolitical climate, addressing economic pressures, and being reminded of the historical mistakes of its past are some of these resonances. A period of rearmament could return such heritage brands to paths reshaped by today's global needs. But along with the opportunity to develop new business areas, companies in the civilian industrial sector that want to be part of the defence industry also face major challenges. In addition to addressing their corporate governance and ethics, they will need to comply with numerous regulations. The defence and security sector is a highly regulated sector, where the influence of legislation and public authorities is uniquely intense and not truly comparable to any other industry. For example, certain problems arise in public procurement. A large number of specific rules apply to defence and security contracts, and these rules will be new even for companies whose previous experience in public contracting has familiarized them with public procurement processes and the associated legal protection mechanisms. In addition, exemptions are now increasingly being used to speed up procurement. For example, the German armed forces rely more often on direct procurement. In direct procurement, however, competitors run the risk of being overlooked. It is also more difficult for them to take precautionary measures against the tender if they were not informed about the contract in the first place. This is because transparency requirements are lacking. Antitrust law must also be taken into account if a company plans to work with other companies that may already be established in the defence sector. Collaborations and joint ventures subject to antitrust rules are particularly common in the defence sector. In such cases, it is necessary to avoid or justify any restrictions that limit competition. In addition, companies entering arms production should be aware of its potential impact on other business units. Furthermore, private capital is traditionally underinvested in the defence and security sector, at least in Europe. There is great potential here, as private capital is said to have over 3.5 trillion United States dollars in global dry powder. That is unallocated capital commitments from investors. However, investments in the defence and security sector are subject to foreign trade law restrictions on foreign funds and funds with a relevant foreign investor base, which can apply not only when entering an investment, but also when exiting it. Despite all obstacles, Volkswagen's decision to move into military production is the most tangible evidence of Germany's determination to strengthen its defence. Germany's plans for hundreds of billions of euros in additional military spending are for defence, not for territorial gains as in the past. Nevertheless, Germany's abandonment of the Schwarz Null or Black Zero fiscal bottleneck and opening the taps for military and infrastructure renewal is a significant moment and marks a potentially decisive break with the pacifist tendencies of the country's post-war past. Over time, it could lead to the re-emergence of Germany as a hard-powered, overpowered political and economic hegemon in the heart of Europe. It would be a great irony if Putin's invasion of Ukraine led to such a reshaping of Europe's geopolitical order. Reinforcing the historical enemy was not what the Russian leader had in mind when he sent his tanks into Ukraine. Yet, this could very easily have been the end result. It is always dangerous to read too much into the reactions of financial markets to world events. They often get it wrong or alternatively fail to see what happens to them in the future. However, last week, their message in response to Germany's promises to loosen budget rules was clear. German sovereign bond yields soared, taking the rest of the European debt markets with them. It was described in some quarters as one of the worst bond market crashes since German unification in 1990. But the message it sends is not as negative as the word crash implies. On the contrary, it points to a return to higher growth and therefore higher interest rates. And, as many macroeconomists argue, this is exactly what Germany needs to get out of its low-growth malaise. There is nothing better than military spending to revive a moribund economy, especially in a country whose core strength in the automotive sector is under deadly attack. Jobs-producing tanks, drones and artillery shells offer a ready alternative to the jobs lost in Germany's once mighty automotive industry. I hesitate to use the analogy because it has connotations, but high military and infrastructure spending played a key role in pulling Germany out of its economic stagnation in the early years of the Third Reich. Similarly, the military spending of the Second World War helped to finally free the United States from the grip of the Great Depression. But lifting the debt brake is far from a done deal. The decision faces multiple challenges, both in the Bundestag and in the German courts. Incoming German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has to rely heavily on the supermajority of the Scholz-led government in the current Bundestag to pass the bill before the new parliament takes office on March 25. After then, the opposition alternative for Germany and Die Linke parties could potentially block any relaxation. The AfD has already signalled that it will challenge the ruling through Germany's most powerful constitutional court in Karlsruhe. The court has historically looked unfavourably on attempts to ease restrictions. Just a few years ago, It ruled that current Chancellor Olaf Scholz had illegally reused €60 billion from emergency pandemic rescue funds for climate change spending. Merz has had to make significant concessions to Scholz's Social Democratic Party to secure support for his chancellorship. It can therefore be assumed that Scholz, not Merz, is still in power. In any case, it would not be the first time that a potentially dramatic policy change has been imposed without any democratic mandate. Merz was not elected on the free military and infrastructure spending platform he now advocates, but to be fair, he has hinted at it. It was Angela Merkel, a former Christian Democratic Union leader, who first introduced the debt brake. As it stands, opposition to its removal goes far beyond the pro-Russian AfD. Veronica Grimm, a member of the German Council of Economic Experts, an independent organisation similar to the United Kingdom's Office for Budget Responsibility, called the proposals an extremely risky bet. Others denounced the initiative as a blank cheque for defence spending. The German commitment to the order liberalism of the debt brake is admirable in many respects, but beyond providing fiscal room for manoeuvre for the currently envisioned big bazooka spending, it has clearly not served the German economy well. Growth has been weak, much of the country's infrastructure is in shambles, and investment in the future has been grossly underinvested. This demoralising situation is of course not entirely due to the debt brake, but the Germans are unnecessarily self-flagellating. Things do not have to be this bad. In any case, the opportunity for national renewal is there. Whether the rest of Europe will be completely comfortable with a revitalised, militarily strong Germany is another matter. The purpose of the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation alliance, its first Secretary-General, Lord Ismay, said, was to keep the Russians out, the Americans in, and the Germans down. A similar logic inspired the creation of the European Union, which was as much an attempt to contain Germany after the disasters of the first half of the 20th century as it was to link nations through trade. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, Margaret Thatcher's reservations about German unification stemmed from the fear of a new and powerful German hegemony. It also played an important role in securing European monetary union, with a reluctant Germany forced by its neighbours to give up its beloved Deutschmark in exchange for the greater prize of reunification. Germany today is a pacifist country and defensively deficient. This is not because it wants to benefit from American generosity or to atone for the sins of the First and Second World Wars, but because it was forced to do so by the United States and the rest of Europe wanted it. Under Putin's aggression and Trump's shockingly false threats to leave the bloc alone, Germany now has the opportunity to rearm. Moreover, not only Germany but also Europe is working to strengthen its defences. With Donald Trump pressuring Europe to spend more on its own defence, the European Union is on high alert. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, the executive body of the European Union, has made a far-reaching proposal to increase European defence spending to $840 billion. This proposal reportedly includes a €150 billion loan programme to buy more weapons and technology. The plans mark a significant policy shift at a sensitive time when European leaders are panicking about Trump's demands. The European Union has long seen itself as a project built for peace and open trade, but the world has suddenly changed around it. Ms von der Leyen said that we are in an era of rearmament. The options Ms von der Leyen has proposed mostly involve loans and looser budget rules. Decisions on whether to increase military spending will be made by European Union member states, whose finances are already under pressure. But with Ukraine facing a critical arms shortfall in its war against Russia, the timing is increasingly urgent. Ms von der Leyen announced her proposal ahead of a meeting in Brussels of heads of state and government from the bloc's 27 member states. The euro rose as much as 0.3% to 1.0521 United States dollars, its highest since February 26, after von der Leyen's announcement. European bonds paired earlier gains, with the yield on 10-year German bonds trading around 2.46%, compared with around 2.43% before the news. Perhaps the most innovative part of the proposal is the €150 billion programme to provide defence-related loans from the European Union to member states. The funds could be used to finance a range of investments. For example, air and missile defence, artillery, drones and anti-drone systems, cyber technologies and infrastructure projects could be supported with funds. According to senior European Commission officials, funding for the programme will be raised on capital markets. The new loan instrument will be similar to one created to support member states' short work plans and similar measures during the COVID pandemic. The legal basis cited by the Commission indicates that it will not require the unanimous support of all member states. This means that countries such as Hungary could avoid potential vetoes, according to people familiar with the matter, who were granted anonymity to discuss the sensitive talks. But a broader move towards new European Union borrowing to provide non-repayable grants would have to win the support of 27 member states. This is a significant hurdle. Germany's election winner Friedrich Merz has signalled that he may be open to such plans, but Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has indicated that he is likely to block efforts aimed at helping Ukraine. The loans would be intended to pave the way for large investments that would not overlap, officials said. The money will be allocated by the Commission to member states on request. Ms von der Leyen said that it will help member states to pool demand and make purchases together. With this equipment, member states can greatly increase their support for Ukraine. Ms von der Leyen had previously announced that she would propose exempting defence investments from the European Union's strict deficit rules. European defence spending has increased by 30% since 2021. In short, the prospect of Donald Trump withdrawing military support from Europe, Putin's increasingly reckless moves, and shifting geopolitical balances have alarmed Germany and the rest of Europe. The European Union's rapid increase in defence spending and the fact that even Germany's civilian companies are turning to military production are the most concrete indicators of rising security concerns on the continent. Europe is now much more fragile than before, and every step taken is critical to guarantee not only national defence, but also the security and stability of the continent. Thank you for following us.